When you're running and scaling a company, it's normal to have times where you doubt your leadership skills, especially when you're facing problems or navigating challenges that you've never dealt with before. When this becomes an issue, though, is if it causes you to get stuck in your own head, where you overthink, you second guess yourself, and avoid the things that you know that you need to do. The good news is there is a solution for this, and in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 strategies that are going to help you build your confidence as a CEO. Strategy number 3 is by far the most important, and if you don't get this right, you risk continuing to make the same mistakes or bottlenecking growth. If you're new here, my name is Byron Morrison. I'm the author of The Effective CEO, and I help first-time CEOs become the leader their business needs to take it to the next level of success. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss future videos. For strategy number 1, I'm going to talk you through my favorite decision-making framework that I teach to all of my private clients in our 3rd session. This is what's known as the order of consequences. Because the way that most people live their life is most of their choices are based on what they want in the moment, whether it's that in the now satisfaction or based on comfort, pleasure, or avoiding pain. They're essentially picking what they want right now without much thought of the long-term consequences that come as a result of that action. This is a huge issue because often what they're overlooking is they're picking what they want in the moment at the expense of what they want most. The reality is, whether your goal is in business, health, or another area of your life, achieving it is going to require sacrifice. You're going to need to make yourself uncomfortable or at times make short-term losses that are going to lead to long-term gains. And this is why if you look at highly effective CEOs, one mindset they have is the ability to make decisions based on where they want to get to, not just on where they are. Because by knowing what they're trying to achieve or the challenges they need to overcome, this is how they can make calculated decisions, take the right risks, and ensure their actions are aligned with where they're trying to get to. I'll talk you through an example so that you can see this framework in action. Let's say you have a toxic member of your team who's massively underperforming, but despite that, for the last few months, you've just let it carry on because you don't want to have that difficult conversation. Well, if we break the situation down and we play it out to the future, both in the scenario that you face it or you don't, the consequence of you not facing this head on could be the fact that this team member continues underperforming. Because of that, the next consequence is they create a hostile work environment which frustrates everyone else. The consequence of that is your A players leave and they go somewhere else. The consequence of that is it directly impacts your revenue and bottom line. None of this is even factoring in either the stress and anxiety that you have from knowing you need to face this, but you're avoiding it. If we look in the other direction, though, the first order consequence is you needing to face this and actually deal with it. But the consequence of actually doing that could be getting this toxic member out of your team. The consequence of that is you create an environment where people want to be and continue to grow. The consequence of that is it drives growth and furthers your revenue. And the consequence of that is then you can grow a company that impacts more people. By looking at the 2 consequences in the future, it then becomes far easier to face the difficult thing that you don't want to do because you see the outcomes. Whereas if you're just facing on the action you don't want to take, you're always going to talk yourself out of it. And this framework applies to everything from big decisions over making an investment to a new hire, or even choices you have to make in every area of your life. Someone who does this amazingly well is Elon Musk. Regardless of how you might feel about him on a personal level, there's no denying the impact and success he's created. But if you look back over his career, he's had so many situations where he's torn apart and criticized in the media for the choices he's made. People often say he's being short-sighted or making terrible decisions, but then you look at it a year or 2 later, it's had this huge success. The reason why he's able to do that is because he's thinking 5 steps ahead. He's making decisions based on the outcome he's trying to create. This is why he's willing to make that short-term loss or go through that risk because he knows it's going to get him closer towards where he wants to be. Whereas the people criticizing him, they're just focusing on that first order consequence, which is why it seems reckless or the wrong decision. This is also why it's so important to recognize that you're never going to be able to make everyone else happy. And if you're constantly trying to please others in the choices that you make, it's just going to make you doubt and second guess yourself, especially when their guidance is based on first order consequences that aren't aligned with where you're trying to get to. That's why if you want to feel more confident in making decisions, you have to play them out into the future. Think 5 steps ahead and make decisions based on where you want to get to, not just on where you are. Get this right, and that's how you're going to become a more effective leader. Strategy number 2 is making sure that you're prepared in advance for future challenges. With so much on your plate, it's easy to convince yourself that you just need to dive in and attack the day. And while this may feel like you're being productive, the issue is it's setting you up for a day where you're going to be highly reactive, bouncing between problems where you're just handling them in the moment. And this can be a huge issue because I'm sure you know what it's like where you handle a situation and you look back after feeling like you really didn't navigate it as the best version of you, or you said something that you later regret. And that's why if you want to feel more in control of your role, you have to take time every single day to preempt what's ahead. Go through and look at everything from the meetings you have coming up to tough conversations you need to have or anything else that could throw you off your game. Then knowing that, take a few minutes to prepare yourself. Think about what you need to communicate, what's the outcome that you want, what expectations you need to set. This is going to allow you to then go into that situation and have a game plan you can kick into where you can then handle it as the best version of you. This is also where it really helps to have people in your corner that you can lean on and break down challenges rather than you just going into them and hoping for the best. This is also why in my coaching program, I offer what are called SOS calls to deal with immediate challenges and problems that can't wait until our next session. The biggest use for these is handling tough conversations. Because let's be honest, difficult conversations are not something that anyone enjoys. And I find that for a lot of CEOs, they really throw them off their game. They go into it being highly reactive, emotion takes over, and then they say things that either they regret or they don't handle it as the best version of themselves. That's why we'll often do these SOS calls where we'll play them out in advance. We'll look at what the situation is, how they need to communicate, expectations, what accountability they need to put in place, and how they need to mentally get themselves in the zone to really handle it as the leader they want to be. This allows them to then go in feeling far more in control of the situation because they know exactly what they need to do and say in order to handle it effectively. This is why if you want to feel more confident in navigating the challenges that are thrown your way, you have to force yourself to slow down. That means taking time to preempt the day, looking ahead at what's coming up and preparing yourself for how you're going to deal with it. I know it's hassle and it's something that in the moment you're going to try and convince yourself you don't have time for, but there's no way around it. If you want to feel more confident in navigating the challenges that are thrown your way, you have to learn to slow down. You need to take that time to preempt the day and figure out how you're going to deal with these challenges, because if you don't, you're just going to go in highly reactive where you're driven by emotion. But if you do, that's how you can stay calm and grounded and actually handle them as the best version of yourself. So add those few minutes into your day and you're going to feel a lot more confident about what you're taking on. Like I said at the start, strategy number 3 though is by far the most important, and that is taking time to reflect. Because when you're so busy and you have all of these competing priorities, it's so easy to get into a cycle where your focus is on just trying to get through the day. In this situation, you probably rarely stop to think about what you did or what you went through. And this is a huge issue because the experiences you faced, they're your biggest opportunity for growth. This is why when I'm working with private clients, I track the entire journey, everything from tough conversations to how they structured their time and the things that threw them off their game. Then every week we take time to break it down, figure out what happened, what they need to learn, and how they need to improve for the future. The way I always frame this for people is it's a lot like an elite athlete going back and watching old game footage. In doing so, that's how they figure out how to improve and get an edge. And if you want to be a more confident and effective CEO, we have to treat the journey in exactly the same way. That means taking some time every single day to reflect and process what you did, looking at what went right, what went wrong, the lessons you need to learn, and how you need to improve for the future. Think back over everything that happened, what went right, what went wrong, what could you have done better, what would have allowed you to feel more in control. This is going to give you a lot of lessons and learnings for the future that are going to help you improve. Because at the end of the day, mistakes are only a bad thing if you keep repeating them. But if you don't learn from them, you risk making them over and over again. By taking the time to process them, though, that's how you're going to build your confidence and intuition. And the next time you're in that situation, you're going to know how better to handle it. This is why I highly advise adding this into your daily routine, where you just take a few minutes to think about what you did. This can be a game changer on your performance for the future. Again, though, when doing this is where really having someone in your corner can have a huge benefit. Using myself as an example, from working with CEOs in 18 different countries, I've been exposed to situations and conversations behind closed doors that very few people in the world will be aware of, let alone have any experience in navigating. What that allows me to do is go to sessions where I can challenge someone's ideas, introduce new perspectives, and really coach and guide them on how to improve and actually become more effective in what they're doing. So this is why I really advise, whether it's myself or someone else, you need to find someone that you can break down these ideas, because that's how you're really going to process them and figure out how to improve for the future. So if you want to know more about how I might be able to support you on this, I'll leave a link in the description of this video that goes through the process I use with all of my private clients. And you can also set up a time to speak directly to me to see whether or not working together is going to be the right fit to help you become the leader your business needs. So there you have it. There are 3 strategies that you can start implementing today that are not only going to build your confidence, they're also going to allow you to feel far more in control of what you need to get done. If you have any questions on any of this, leave them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and hit subscribe so that you don't miss future videos. I've been Byron Morrison. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.